The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Namaskar, welcome to PT Pointers, and in this video, we are going to cover major headlines of the Hindu, Indian Express, and Press Information Bureau. So, without wasting any time, let's start today's discussion. And our first headline is related to Pradhan Mantri पर्टिकुलरली वनरेबल ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स मिशन, जिसको रिसेंटली प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी के द्वारा लॉन्च किया गया है फॉर द होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट ऑफ अराउंड 28 लाख PVGTs in the country, and under the mission, basic facilities such as road and telecom connectivity, electricity, safe housing, clean drinking water and sanitation, improved access to education, health and nutrition, and sustainable livelihood opportunities will be provided to PVGT habitations, which are mostly remote, scattered and inaccessible. Now, what are PVGTs? So friends, they are more vulnerable group among tribal groups in India, and these groups have primitive traits, geographical isolation, low literacy, zero to negative population growth rate, and backwardness, and they're largely dependent upon hunting for food and pre-agriculture level of technology. And इस मिशन को लॉन्च किया गया है on the occasion of जनजातीय गौरव दिवस, which is celebrated on November 15th to mark the birth anniversary of freedom fighter and tribal activist Birsa Munda, who was a freedom fighter, social reformer. He fought bravely against the exploitive system of the British colonial government and became a legendary figure. Our next headline is related to Creative Cities Network, जो कि इनिशिएटिव है यूनेस्को का, एंड इसको लॉन्च किया गया था 2004 में टू प्रमोट कॉपरेशन among cities that have identified creativity as strategic factor for sustainable urban development. And Edinburgh was the first city of literature, and Kozhikode is the first city of literature in India. Besides literature, UNESCO also recognizes cities for their association with other creative fields like film, crafts, folk arts and design. And this year, Gwalior has been named a city of music. Earlier, this honor was achieved by Varanasi and Chennai. Our next headline is related to Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita Bill 2023, which is expected to replace the Code of Criminal Procedure, and recently it is observed that it provides further immunity to armed forces personnel, as no case can be registered against them without the sanction of the union and state governments for acts performed in the line of duty. And proposed provision will be addition to the Armed Forces Special Powers Act that give power to armed forces deployed in disturbed areas to arrest or kill anyone acting in contravention of law and search any premises without a warrant, and protection from prosecution and legal suits without central government's sanction. And at present, it is applicable in parts of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and whole of Jammu and Kashmir. And do you know friends, CRPC को इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया था 1898 में, and इसको अमेंड किया गया था 1973 में. It provides protection to members of the armed forces only from arrest, and there are no conditions regarding registration of a criminal case. Our next headline is related to Financial Action Task Force, and ये न्यूज में इसलिए है क्योंकि इसकी टीम इंडिया में है as part of the process to conduct the country's mutual evaluations to ascertain if authorities have put in place and effectively implemented the required legal framework against money laundering and terrorist financing. अगर हम फाइनेंशियल एक्शन टास्क फोर्स की बात करें तो इसको स्टैब्लिश किया गया था 1989 में by G7 countries to examine and develop measures to combat money laundering, and in 2001 FATF expanded its mandate to combat terrorist financing, and since 2019 FATF has had an open-ended mandate after originally operating under fixed terms. Our next headline is related to इंडिया मिडल ईस्ट यूरोप इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर, जिसको साइन किया गया था इंडिया, यूएस, यूएई, यूरोपियन यूनियन, फ्रांस, इटली एंड जर्मनी के द्वारा, एंड इट कंसिस्ट ऑफ रेल रोड, शिप टू रेल नेटवर्क्स एंड रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट रूट्स extending across two corridors, that is East Corridor connecting India to the Gulf and Northern Corridor connecting the Gulf to Europe. Our next headline is related to NISAR, जो कि एक low Earth orbit observatory है, and it is being jointly developed by NASA and ISRO. The mission has 3-year duration and will survey all the Earth's land and ice-covered surface. It carries L and S dual band synthetic aperture radar. And do you know, friends, synthetic aperture radar refers to a technique for producing fine resolution images from a resolution limited radar system. Our next headline is related to Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, and ये न्यूज़ में इसलिए है क्योंकि recently India, US and other members of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework entered into a supply chain resilience agreement which aims to cut dependence on China and help shift manufacturing of crucial goods to member nations. The 14 countries that are part of this framework include India, Australia, US, Japan, Fiji, Korea, New Zealand, Singapore and Thailand, and make up for 40% of the global gross domestic product and about a third of the global goods and services trade. This framework is structured around 4 pillars relating to trade, supply chains, clean economy and fair economy. And do you know, friends, India has joined all the pillars except trade pillar. Our next headline is related to Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, which is a regional economic forum and ये established हुई थी 1989 में to leverage the growing interdependence of the Asia Pacific. इसमें 11 members हैं and they aim to create a greater prosperity for the people of the region by promoting balanced, inclusive, sustainable, innovative and secure growth and by accelerating regional economic integration. And here I have a question for you. क्या India Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation का member है? You have to write your answers in the comment section below. Our next and last headline is related to Digital India Land Records Modernization Program, जो कि एक सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम है and it is being implemented by Department of Land Resources with 100% funding by the Government of India. It has 3 major components and these are computerization of land record, survey or resurvey and computerization of registration. It is aimed to develop a modern, comprehensive and transparent land record management system. So with this, let's conclude our today's discussion. Thanks for listening, and for regular updates, you can follow us on various social media platforms.